Well, today, my opening comments will be brief but candid. You know, this body is about ethics, morals, love, respect, and integrity, honesty. And this didn't have to happen. I got the call over Thanksgiving holiday. I was away with my family, and my heart literally dropped to the floor. And then I get the video of the honor walk of this young man not making his 21st birthday. It's sad. It's disgusting. We immediately put an emergency order in place. We immediately look to take control of a situation that we thought others should have taken control of. And that's my opinion, and you'll hear the report today, and that's all you'll hear from me. The report stands on its own. I'm not going to give you my opinion, because the facts are the facts. You make your own determination. You make your own determination. But I can tell you this, that the Attorney General, the Nevada Highway Patrol, the investigative arms of this state did a very good job. And I'm proud to work with them. I'm very proud. And I come from, you know, the business world where it's knock down, drag out, and everyone kind of snarks at politics. Be proud of your state. The state's got some very honorable people working here. They're working hard. And all they want to get is the truth. Just the facts. No bullshit, right, left. Just the facts, folks. Not crazy banter, made up denials, lies. The truth, honesty. Purple, isn't that state purple, folks? Aren't we purple? We're not blue or red, we've always been purple. That's what this state's about. I remember when I was a young man, there was a guy by the name of Bill Raggio, head of the Senate, a guy by the name of Joe Dini, head of the Assembly. Republican and Democrat. Son of a gun, you wouldn't even know the difference between them. We're Nevadans. What is wrong with everyone around here? Enough. Okay, so hopefully we lead by example today. This is nonpartisan, folks. This is a young man's death that didn't have to happen. Okay? These are just facts. Can't argue with facts, folks. Okay? You want to twist them in your mind? Go read the Professor Fensiger of psychology. You know? Cults. This is not a cult. Do we live in a cult in this state? No. We live in a democracy. Let's grow the fuck up. Jesus Christ. And I'm that serious about it. Because I've had enough. It's about my kids' future, and I'm tired. I'm tired. And I want my kids to live in a good environment. And I want everyone's kids to live in a good environment. Enough of the snarking at each other. Just talk about the facts. Have a debate, a civilized debate, without like beating the crap out of each other just because you want to win. You can agree to disagree. The facts are the facts. So, that's all I'm going to say today. And I'd like to introduce you to Kyle George, the first Assistant Attorney General of the state of Nevada. I'm very proud and honored to work with him. Learned a lot from him. He's a good attorney and representing this fine state. So, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Kyle George, First Assistant Attorney General. Commissioners, the Office of the Attorney General has completed our investigation, and this report has been tendered to you. It is now available online and public. Pursuant to your request, all witnesses referenced in this report have been duly noticed, and several are present today to answer any questions the Commission should have for them. I would also note that Mr. Valencia's parents are on the phone, and I would like to take a moment of personal privilege and extend my condolences to them, both personally and on behalf of my office. Commissioners, as the chairman has indicated, we believe the report stands for itself, so I don't believe I need to make any further presentation on it. but we stand available for any questions you may have.
Please proceed. Proceed.
That's it, Commissioner. Any questions?
Oh,
We hope for any questions
great.
you have.
Super.
We're not here to belabor this.
Lovely. I'm ready. I have no questions or comments, but I'm going to open it up to the rest of the commission, please, for questions and comments. Please ask anything you'd like.
I have a number of questions, and it may include you, it may need the DA, and it may need Metro. It also may need the owner of the facility. If I'm reading your report right, there's two major laws that were broken there. And I think it's important to note, this commission has zero jurisdiction over this event because the rules were not followed. Otherwise, we would have. Do you agree with that?
I agree with the statement that this commission had no jurisdiction over this because of the rules that apply to the Nevada Athletic Commission were not compliant.
And when I read this report, I find a couple of rules that were not followed, and please correct me if I'm missing others, but in this report, there were amateurs involved in this event, not just UNLV students.
That is correct.
Do we know who those amateurs are, and are they of any realm in the boxing world? Do we know who they may be?
We have identified those persons, and none of them are licensed fighters.
Were never licensed fighters prior to.
I think Executive Director Muller can answer questions if they would have been licensed.
No, they have not.
Okay. The second exhibit that's in here is this lease agreement. This lease agreement is a blatant violation of our regulations and our statutes, where there were fees taken at the gate. Do you consider that a violation of that law?
Commissioner Mornell, Ed McGough, for the record, I'm a Senior Deputy Attorney General for the AG's office. As far as admissions, because this was not a sanctioned event or an event under our jurisdiction at the time, if it had not been, we would not have taken revenue from those admissions. But had this been a sanctioned event, an event that would have been licensed by us, we would have gotten a cut of those fees probably. Unless it was an amateur event, we may not have.
I'm not concerned about the tax revenue here.
Okay.
What I'm looking at here is you have a promoter venue license agreement where there were fees taken at a gate.
Okay.
In that event, and my understanding after the 12 years I've been here, is that that should have been sanctioned, regulated, and governed by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and/or who we delegate to handle amateur boxing. This would be an official amateur event. A UNLV event, and for the record, this issue has been going on in the state of Nevada for decades, and there are commissioners that have fought to change this law for decades, to no avail through our legislative process. It's unfortunate this man had to pass away to get there, because we should have been there long ago. There were complaints about this forever from this commission to not allow any type of fighting in the state of Nevada under any circumstances without the Nevada State Athletic Commission's oversight. And this is exactly why. And when you read this report, this is a cluster beyond belief, from one end to the other, on organization, promotion, safety, inspection, drugs, alcohol in the ring. I mean, really, a referee drinking in the ring? This is great. I mean, what are we doing here? Anyway, I share some of Commissioner or Chairman Klubeck's sentiments on this, but I'm not sure I necessarily agree with the report on who's at fault here. We don't have any oversight. This is an underground fight for all intents and purposes, where they were charging at the door, taking money, completely unregulated, running wild. And those are the two violations of statute that I can find in here, without all my other subjective opinions. Am I correct, or is there more?
Commissioner, I agree with you. I think our report was very careful to make no statements of fault here. We identified factual breakdowns in the system and presented in the report, and I don't think we get a conclusion on an ultimate fault.
So, all right, then are there any other that I've missed?
No, I believe that's pretty thorough representation.
The last thing is Exhibit 22. The deceased fighter, or student, I would call him, his medical records are omitted from this obviously for confidential reasons. However, this commission does have the power to subpoena those records brought in under, for lack of a better analogy, secrecy, where they're not subject to the public records request.
That is correct, Commissioner. This report, however, is a public document, which is why it was redacted. in this.
We-
It's really important for me as a commissioner.
We
on
have
this.
it.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
That you can get it, we have it.
All right,
We
then
have
I'd
it.
like, then I'd like to see that.
Please,
and I-
please make sure he gets
I will-
that today.
I will comment on it.
Yeah, we have that.
I would like to.
I've seen
understand
it, so
Okay.
it's just, it was redacted because of the public
Fair
record.
enough. How did you guys get involved in this to take over this investigation?
After your December 13th meeting, where Nathan's law was passed, the regulation was passed, we received indications that there was no interest in further investigation of the matter, and the chairman referred this to our office.
Okay. And this might be a question for you, it might be a question for Chairman. Is there a reason that we did not use our own investigative powers and bodies with our partnership with the Nevada Gaming Control Board to do this investigation ourselves? Is it a lack of jurisdiction on the issue? Was why we referred it? Or why would we not have done this ourselves, which we are completely capable of and allow? I know because I wrote the law. Why we're not doing that?
Commissioner, I think there was a legal threshold question of whether you had jurisdiction or not, based on the facts that were at the time undetermined.
I had thought that, but I wanted to clarify that. Okay. I guess this is a question for all of you, and you should all come up and comment on it. It's a question for the state attorney general, the district attorney, and Metro. At this point, now that you've gone through this investigation and discovered all of these different issues, of which many of them are just gross negligence and they're not violations of statute. But now that we have clear violations of statute, is there any intent on the Attorney General's office to come forward against those who have violated that statute?
Statutorily, the Attorney General's office has limited original jurisdiction on criminal prosecutions. There are some crimes laid out by statute that we do have original jurisdiction. Typically, prosecutions done at the local level, unless those matters refer to us for prosecutions. So the question of any further prosecution should go to local authorities.
So are the statutes that were violated county statutes, or are they state statutes?
They are state statutes, but the county law enforcement typically enforces state statutes.
Okay. My last question, and I would like to hear from the district attorney representative of Metro on that specific question. My last question is, where did the proceeds from this fight go? They're represented here in a graphic, and they say that they were given, it looks like a total ripoff of the Raiders logo, which is interesting, to somewhere.
I believe Deputy Attorney General Becker has the answer to that.
The target of the charity was Centering Boxing, who donated the ring and the equipment, and I believe at their request, the money was then proceeded to the family to help with medical expenses and funerary expenses.
Okay. I might have another question or two, but I would like to
You
hear
come
from
back
the
if
other
you'd like.
representatives in the room.
Can we have the representative from the district attorney's office please speak? Commission? When you come up here, please state your name, who you represent.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Christopher Lawley. I am an Assistant District Attorney at the Clark County DA's office.
Okay.
Hi.
So my question is, now that this report has been published and these findings and facts have furthered themselves, is this not a violation that the district attorney would look at proceeding forward with? Who is accountable and responsible for breaking these laws that allow this fight to happen and result in this young man's death?
So here's what I can tell you, Commissioner. I received a copy of the report this morning,
Okay.
and I am not in any position whatsoever to comment on the report.
Whoa, how could you come to a meeting when you got a certified letter from this commission putting you on notice that you were being talked about? You're not prepared?
I didn't receive.
Are you kidding? No, you just said you're not prepared. You said you didn't read anything and you're not prepared.
I didn't receive a copy of the report.
That means you're not
Did
prepared.
you send me a copy of the report? Did you provide it to me?
My
Did
friend,
you- Excuse me, sir.
friend,
Excuse me. Did you provide me a copy of the report?
you want to
Yes
debate
or no?
me in my commission hearing? Do you really want to go there?
I'm just asking if
Do
you
you
provided
wanna
me a
go
copy of the
there?
report.
Steve, this isn't productive.
Go sit down.
Well, no, I'd like him to finish.
Go ahead. Nobody's going to
So
say.
Now,
I didn't get it till
Constructive.
last night either, so that's why I'm asking for clarity on you know, you can only read 150 pages as fast as you can get it.
Yeah.
And try to digest this whole situation. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you haven't digested this yet, and you need to go do that. Because at the end of the day, I can attest in this commission hearing, there are clear violations of Nevada revised statute that resulted in a young man's death that should have never happened. Because people were irresponsible, worked around the system, and didn't follow the law, clearly. Now, whether they had intent to do that or not, I can't attest to that, but those are the facts.
So, Commissioner, here's what I can tell you. The Clark County District Attorney's Office is not an investigative body. We are a prosecutorial body. We receive requests from prosecution from law enforcement. As of today, we have not received a request for prosecution involving this matter. If we do, what I can assure you is we will thoughtfully and thoroughly review that request and make an appropriate decision with respect to the prosecutorial merit of the case.
So you're saying as the DA that you don't prosecute unless law enforcement brings it to you?
Correct. We do not investigate crimes. We prosecute crimes based upon requests for prosecution that are submitted to us.
But your counterpart investigated, it's been done. What else do you need now?
Well, then, if the Attorney General wishes to submit a formal submission to us, a request for prosecution, that's something we will review and
I'm
consider.
clear, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm trying to find out what you are going to or not going to do. And if you're not ready to comment on it.
Well, as of right now, there's nothing that has been submitted to the District Attorney to take any action on.
Let me ask you a question, please, and I apologize. I'm just so heated over this. I'm passionate, so please.
I understand.
Please
No, I
accept my
understand.
apology, okay?
I do. Thank you.
Young man died.
I understand.
I have a 20-year-old, you know? I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd do.
I've got 25 and then 26.
Then you
so
do
I
understand, so my apologies, okay? So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Metro was asked twice. They said once that there was no crime, nothing to investigate. Then at my hearing, I think in December, I asked them again in softball form, would you investigate this? And they doubled down and said no. So you're saying, I'll ask Metro here today if they're gonna triple down today. So I can't wait to hear from Metro, because you need something from Metro to prosecute, you just said.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna talk to Metro next. Okay? I understand, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Let's hear from Metro, please. State your name, please, for the record.
Deputy Chief Jim Marshall, Metro, head of oversee the Investigative Services Division.
Thank
Can you
you.
please speak louder when you speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so
So
much.
can I ask you just a real quick question? You guys have already doubled down. You gonna triple down today? Or you're gonna come to grips with the situation?
Sir, I'd like to explain.
No, I'm gonna ask, yeah, I'm asking you a question, my opinion, my question. I'm due an answer. I'm due an answer. Are you gonna triple down today, or are you gonna come in and do the right thing? I'm asking you to answer binary questions, either you're yes or no. You represent Metro. You're here, we appreciate that very much.
It doesn't seem like it.
No, it don't, yes, we do. We'd like you to do the right thing and do your job. Can you please just do your job? Please?
I'd like to talk.
We all pay you to do your job. We all pay you to do your job. This is not political.
This is.
No, it's not political.
It's unprofessional.
No, it's not. You don't like it. You don't like the
I am
truth.
standing in a public forum.
That's right. You don't
trying
like
to
the
answer
truth.
questions, respond to a report that I received yesterday afternoon.
No, you've known about this for a long time.
No, sir.
Oh, yes, you have since last November. You telling me you don't represent Metro?
This-
Metro's known about this
forum
since
I was
November.
notified was to respond to this report.
You've known about this since November.
And I can talk about the report.
Talk away.
Let's have them move forward.
Again, I want to start by saying that Metro did not receive a copy of this report, so we had to ask for it, and we received it yesterday afternoon. So I have prepared by reading it best I could from late afternoon to this morning and outlining some issues I see with the report. At a quick glance, there are problems with the report. As we talk about an investigative report, even from the first page, page I in the executive summary, it says the 2021 Kappa Sigma Fight Night event was held at the Sierra Event Center on November 20th. That is not factually correct. That's how this report starts out. It's November 19th. And when we talk about this report, dates become important because Metro early on sort of recognized that there's some issues with what would be investigated. Metro homicide investigates the NRS 200. And 200 is a criminal statute that talks about manslaughter and murder. And so early on, when we got notified by Adam Garcia, who's chief at UNLV, about this, and it was not the night of the event or the day after, we responded later, so there was no evidence at that time, is what we reached out to the DA's office, we reached out to Commerce Inquest, we reviewed reports, we reviewed the dead bodies report, we reviewed statements that were at that preliminary time, and we discussed it with Pamela Weckerly, who is the DA's liaison with homicide. And upon that review, she said that there was no criminal intent. And we asked about.
Can I stop you?
for other charges.
Can I stop you for a second,
No,
sir?
Sir, I'd like to finish.
No, I have
At
pertinent
the very
information,
beginning of
sir.
this forum,
I have
you said
pertinent
that you
information,
weren't
sir, from the
gonna say anything
DA, from Steve Wolfson, the DA, sir.
And so.
I have pertinent information, sir.
And then-
Metro did not ask the right questions. Metro did not ask
If
the
you let
right
me
questions.
finish.
You asked a very binary, specific question. You didn't answer the right
Because the report
questions.
says that we don't
No, you
look
didn't
at
ask the
the
right
special
questions.
investigations.
I beg to differ with you. I've spoken with the DA.
The
DA answered a specific question that you asked.
You're trying to run me over, and I'm.
No,
here to
you're
talk
already
about
run
this.
over.
No, sir.
That's fine. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Can you please finish?
Yes, sir. And so, as we move forward, it says that Metro investigated, this is in the summary, that Metro's investigation had been limited to the sole question of whether the Sierra Event Center posed a valid Clark County business license, possessed, a valid Clark County business license that allowed them to legally host the Fight Night event. So that is not true. That we did look at NRS 200. We spoke with the DA's office. Then we contacted, early on, we contacted Adam Garcia. We spoke with the Nevada Athletic Commission also about their regulations and trying to get some background information there. And then as early as that first week, we're talking with Michael Dittmar in the AG's office. Our Special Sections Investigations Lieutenant is talking about, hey, we're having a hard time finding business licensing charges. That's in the first week. We also spoke with Director Quiano of the Clark County Business License. We spoke with Will Scott at the AG's office that first week. And in here today, you heard that on December 13th, it gets passed to the AG's office. Under Sheriff Chris Darcy in our office, in the office of the sheriff, spoke with Kyle George on December 6th, and the report reflects that. It says that that conversation occurred, but it gives no context. And that's where the report is slanted. It doesn't present the picture of all its light and what factually occurred. And in that conversation.
Did you do a homicide investigation?
Sir, I'm trying to.
Did you? I'm asking you a question.
No, we did not do a homicide
Okay,
investigation.
so you never did a homicide investigation.
We did not do a murder investigation because we did not have criminal charges.
Okay.
And so, in my time, or in the agencies looking at this event, LVMPD has never investigated a boxer's death, though that has occurred many times in this jurisdiction. It has never investigated a sports death. And so this is unique circumstances, and early on, we're trying to talk to people, but that's not what is the outcome on this report.
I know, but I didn't say murder, I said homicide.
Yes, sir. So homicide, like even in one of the findings, the third finding, it says that Metro did not recover the gloves and that there was evidence that was, could disappear. Again, Metro was not called to the scene, because of the investigation late to look at it preliminary. You need probable cause to go out and recover that type of evidence. To do that, you have to say that a crime has occurred and that a reasonable person believes that that person did the crime and the evidence is located there. But we have the DA's office also helping us review this case and saying there is no crime. That
I don't
person
think
has
so. I don't think the
constitutional
DA's
rights.
office said that.
So,
And even in this report, let's look at the conclusions of the last page. Like we talked about, the AG said that there's charges, but if you look at the last page of this report, it says, considering all of the information obtained and reviewed, investigators found no direct evidence of any criminal violation occurred outside of NSAC statute noted above. That's after their thorough investigation. They're saying no crime occurred, but you're trying to lay this at the feet of Metro. That caused or contributed to the death of Nathan Valencia. Regardless of safety protocols required during sanctioned events were not in place during the event, which may have reduced the risk of preventing tragedy. That is the intent, I think, of this board's meeting, is to try to prevent that. We recognized early on that there was loopholes. We were trying to communicate people. We felt that we weren't best situated because there's nuances, there's esoteric language when you talk about how a fighter prepares for the event. And even when we talk about a murder investigation, there's people within the Nevada State Athletic Commission that said, hey, we think that the person, Valencia, the decedent, lost too much weight before the fight, and that may have contributed to his death. We think that the sparring beforehand might have contributed to his death. How are we going to go out and conduct a criminal investigation when we have experts or other people weighing in that say those type of things?
Look, sir, how about somebody coming into an arena with their hands pre-wrapped? No one knows how they're wrapped. And gloves that were not inspected, with gloves that were not used by anyone else.
Again, that takes, we cannot go out and just grab that. That's speculation. That takes an investigation. And the AG's office did what you're saying is a thorough investigation. Did they recover the gloves? They recovered the gloves of all the fighters in late February, though this investigation, they say, started December 13th. So that's 2 months later.
Whoa, why didn't Metro do it in November?
Because the things I just told you about.
Why did you start an investigation at least? You could have just
We
hold
did.
it off and did an investigation.
No.
No, you had 3 days. It was 3 days. I counted them. 3 days.
We reviewed it on
3
the
days.
homicide part, got input. We were talking to the AG's office, we were talking to your office, and we continued with.
Are you aware that I spoke with the sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Okay? Are you aware that he said he would do a thorough investigation on a phone call that I had with him in November, late November? And then I spoke with the DA, Steve Wilson, and he said, give him a chance. And I did at my commission hearing in December, and he doubled down. He didn't open up an investigation. Ask him why. I gave him a softball. Steve Wilson asked me to give him a softball. I did. Those are the facts.
I relay the facts, sir.
What?
I relay the facts of how this progressed, the dates and times, who talked to who.
You didn't know about my phone call because you weren't on it. You didn't know about my phone call with Steve Wilson until I just told you this today. So don't tell me you knew these facts because you just heard them today, and so did the public for the first time.
Well, there's many things I just spoke about that aren't included in this report, so that'll be MPD.
You know what? Let the facts stand as they are. I'm done. I've heard enough. Unless,
You said you weren't going to comment, I was trying to question.
I know,
Can
with all due
go
respect,
forward?
I gotta use the restroom for a second. Excuse me for a second.
Do you want to?
Fine.
Do you want us to
5
take a
minute
break or
5 minute
continue?
break, please. So, let me ask you a question. What witnesses did you interview? Any?
There was a dead body investigation at the very onset. I don't have that readily available here for me. And there was witnesses.
That dead body report, and that's public?
Yes, sir.
We have a copy of that? I don't think we have a copy of that. Can we get a copy of that?
Well, your office, the AG's office, did not contact Metro for this report to add some
All right,
details.
we're gonna, I'm sure they will.
Okay.
So, were there any other crimes that Metro looked at, like unlawful boxing? Any other violations that Metro could have prosecuted?
We looked at business licensing with business licensing regulations. That lieutenant oversees all those types of investigations. We have a good working relationship with business licensing. And we looked at the homicide statute. The question was asked, is there some sort of negligence also? And we were told that the NRS provided a loophole for this particular.
So there was the liquor license there that night? Was there a liquor license there that night? Because people were drinking and allegedly doing cocaine. I don't know.
And that's an investigation that another body could look at in totality of these circumstances. Is that, as that investigation moved forward, again, is that early on, we recognized that this investigation encompassed many things that Metro wasn't familiar with, that was outside our normal purview, that the AG's office was fully capable, or the UNLV police, or the state highway patrol, or state police, that they have the capability, the scope of the work that they can do, an investigation like this, communicate with this board here. They all fall under the state umbrella, where Metro does not.
Do you think there was negligent homicide?
I do not, sir.
You don't? Okay.
Commissioner, do you have any other questions?
I never got to ask him. So if you're done, when you're done, let me know, because I have.
Go ahead.
list of stuff.
I may still go, but, because I'm just getting more upset every time I hear
So
the DA or Metro.
the fight took place on the 19th instead of the 20th?
Yes, sir.
And then you guys, when were you called to come in and look at this young man's death? I don't need the report, I need what you guys did. Who called you and when to even come look at this?
I spoke with Adam Garcia, the chief of police for UNLV. He mentioned that the Valencia was on life support, looked like they were going to remove him from life support. So that was several days after. My recollection is around the 23rd. And at that time, Ray Spencer, Lieutenant Homicide, spoke with Chief Adam Garcia also, and then began to speak with the coroner for reports, speak with the DA's office, and then subsequently followed up with Adam Garcia, both on the business side with Lieutenant Chio, and also with homicide with Lieutenant Spencer.
So that was 4 days after the event.
Yes, sir.
Good first got your call. So then at that point, I'm not going down his path. I'm just trying to find out the facts on, I can see, I mean, this is it's an underground fight that I think, I'm not gonna testify to anybody's intent, but nobody intended for any of this to happen. Nobody premeditated this, we're gonna load the glove, and it's clear in the medical report, and based on the stuff that was done, that this young man looked like he was having a hard time with even minor head trauma during sparring and training. This bleed could have happened, and nobody would ever know that, when and how all that happened. So I'm not asking the questions on who to pin the tail on the donkey to, because what I am trying to find out though is at this point, we know for a fact we had an underground fight. And that was not known on the 20th, it wasn't known on the 19th, it wasn't known on the 23rd, it wasn't known in December. Their report has now, I didn't know that until I read the report last night, but it's been exposed that the statute was violated and this fight was held illegally. It's an illegal fight and somebody died. Was there an intent for that to happen? Even was there an intent to have it happen illegally? I don't know. I think it's so willy-nilly that nobody gave a crap. They didn't have any idea what they were doing. They were signing lease documents, having fights, got some nurses, a ref with a beer, there's cocaine, there's alcohol, all kinds of stuff going on pre, post, during. It's all in here. What does the law say now? From this point forward is where my questions were going, that this information has come out. You did your work, they did their work. However you want to look at it, back to the original statement we got from the beginning, we're all purple, including the back. What is the go-forward plan now? Or is the go-forward plan, look, there was no intent for anybody to die here, and it's not a crime, it's an accident. I don't know all these technical terms. I'm just trying to find out what the go-forward plan is now, once you all have some time to digest it. And I agree, this is Nevada, and it's a democracy. You should have every chance in the world to refute this report. Absolutely. Don't take this as gospel because he just went and did it. That's total bullshit. So you should go do your work and come back and how you guys want to go forward on this, or you don't.
See, and
I don't have,
but
I'm
see,
not.
this is
Steve,
where we agree.
Steve, I'm
We
not
want,
done.
no, please,
Steve.
I would love for Metro to do an investigation. We agree. Please.
Anyway, but that's all my questioning is that it's clear now that regulations and statutes have been violated at the state level, and a man died. That's clear. So at that point, this point that's been discovered, and I had this conversation even yesterday with the executive director, this is such a finite line in the statute and the reg. How, I agree, how would you know? We have people that work in our office that don't even know. The regs are this big. It takes a lot of work. They went and did a majority of that work. You did some of that work. I'm just asking now, with the DA in the room, what would be the go-forward plan to maybe come back to the commission or to the family and to the citizens of the state of Nevada and say, wait a minute, there was or was not a crime here. I don't believe at the end of the day that anybody involved in this had the intent of hurting or killing this young man. Nobody, that was not the point. This has been going on according to the fraternity for 50 years. So, and if it's not clear to everybody in this room, our legislators, our executive branch, and our higher education system are extraordinarily aware of this regulation and have fought against us for decades to change it. They're equally responsible in this. They should have changed it 10 years ago when Cisco Aguilar and I tried to go down and get all these statutes changed when we rewrote all the regs. But no, we need to have fraternity boxing on campus. We need to allow this stuff to happen. Really? So there's a lot of people involved in this that could have done a lot of things about it going back a lot of years, if not decades. My real question is, now that we have this information, I think that the chairman is taking great actions on changing the emergency reg. It now needs to be pushed into statute. The citizens of the state of Nevada need to keep pushing that so this never can happen again. But what do we do now? What are we going to do going forward? And we don't have anything other than we have civil jurisdiction that has, and I'm not saying that you should go down a criminal path here. I'm not saying that at all. But I think it needs to be looked at, and I do think a lot of this evidence, even if you would have gone down there that night, every single thing that happened in this fight, according to this report, is an absolute violation of the chain of custody on anything we would have been able to gather to be able to prove anything. You cannot have a fighter or 12 fighters wear the same pair of gloves for 12 fights or 8 fights or whatever it was. So it would all have given you nothing. Even looking at the gloves 3 weeks after, the chain of custody is blasted. That's why this body does what it does prior to these events. So that's all my real question is. It's not even a question, it's more of a hope and a statement that you all would at least go take another hard look at this to make sure. And look, I don't want to sit here and say that a young man that is responsible for promoting this should go to jail for this kid's death. I don't want to say that, because I don't think that was his intent. I think he was running a fraternity, and how many mistakes happen in that across the country every single day. This is a huge mistake. Nobody intended for this to happen. So, but I would like to see some further collaborative investigation amongst all the bodies, because there's a lot of different jurisdictions in play. This one is also, from my understanding, has some play in it now, to figure out what really happened. And I do have one other question, and it's for Deputy Attorney General. So you can comment to that or not before you go off, and maybe the Chairman has another question for you.
Yes, sir. So to your point, I do think certainly this situation here says that between the agencies that we could improve upon communication, and early on is maybe get everybody in the room together and discuss who has why for clarity. And going forward, if you're talking about this specific case, now the report, my understanding is the report does not identify any charges or criminal violations. I go back to what I mentioned before and how it concludes. But if there is a charge that the AG investigators put their finger on, is perhaps that we could meet the DA's office and our office, LVMPD and the AG's, and discuss further steps from there.
Again, please clarify, or let me clarify where I'm coming from. At first blush, you would look at this and go, it's a sports-related death. That's what happened that night. And that would be my inclination too. When I first heard about it, first thing I said to you was, we don't have any jurisdiction over this. We didn't even know this was going on. Like, this is a total, that's really the crux of this. This was an underground fight. Maybe not intended to be, but by definition of the statute, that's what happened. And I think that that deserves some further investigation. So anyway, I have one other question. Did anybody ever find or interview the man that was on the opposite end? I forget his name. Did anybody ever talk to? It said in here that he had a lawyer. He interviewed him. Did anybody ever find the gloves? Did the man ever offer where the gloves are?
Parliament's lawyer?
Jordan Logan, I do represent
You can come up
Commander
here.
Elman. Good morning, Commissioners. Jordan Logan, on behalf of...
So, Mr. Logan,
Commander
my
Elman.
question would be more towards, do you know where the gloves are? I mean, not that I think they have any bearing because they were used in 8 fights prior, but why would those not have been voluntarily turned in?
So with all due respect, they were not. They were his own gloves. These were the gloves. These gloves were not used by anyone else but
Are
him.
you working for him?
No.
Okay, well then, why don't you answer my question?
He said, he
So,
didn't answer me.
where are the gloves? Why would you have not voluntarily turned in your gloves?
So to be clear, there was never a request to us for those gloves.
Okay.
No one ever
According
asked,
to this report, that's not true, but I'll take you at your word.
and that's a misrepresentation in the report.
Okay.
There were phone calls to our law firm in April requesting to speak to Sean Claggett
From who?
from an AG investigator.
Okay.
Didn't say what it was about, who they were calling about, just said, hey, I'm so-and-so from the AG's office, can you call me back? Sean was in Europe, he was out of the country. I have been on this case since the very beginning. There was never a request to talk, is there someone else there who could help me on this matter? That never happened. A week later, there's another phone call to the office. Now it says, hey, this is about this matter, this incident that brings us here today. Can you call me back? Never a request for the gloves. And again, Sean's out of the country. And she's told Sean's out of the country. Never, can I speak to somebody else? And again, this is 6 months after the event occurred. 6 months later, now we're getting a phone call saying, can you call me back? There was never an intent on our part to prevent or hinder this investigation. We were just never asked.
Okay. That's interesting. That's not what the report says.
I have the messages.
Okay.
I had heard that your side was obstructive.
It's absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. And this is a tragedy. And Mr. Aylman is devastated by what happened here. And remember,
Then why would he just tender the gloves?
These two parties had no ill will against one another. They were both doing this as a charity event to help the community. And what happened here is devastating to my client. He wants to get to the bottom of this.
Is Mr.
too.
Aylman, has he ever had substance abuse issues?
There's absolutely no evidence of anything like that.
I'm just curious why he wouldn't tender the gloves. Why wouldn't he keep them?
We were never asked. We didn't
No,
know.
but why, but time out, serious. If you know that somebody had an accident that night that you were fighting, why wouldn't you keep those gloves? Those are facts. Why?
He
I don't know.
may have, we don't.
I know he may have them. They have them still hidden somewhere. Maybe Commissioner Marnell is onto something.
It's my understanding that he still has the gloves. They're not hidden somewhere.
Oh, he does.
That's my understanding, yeah. If someone had just asked.
Oh, he does. Oh, wow. Would you be so kind as to tender them to us?
I will check in with my client and see.
We didn't check in. He has them. Would you like the Attorney General to handle it another way?
We're here to help.
I
this
know,
process,
and I
to be
want
a
you to
part
help
of this
too.
investigation.
We want to help as a community, and what Commissioner Marnell was saying, Purple, we're trying to lead here by example, okay? Believe me, I would have loved for Sheriff Lombardo to live up to what he said to me and say, yeah, we're gonna do this investigation, Mr. Chairman. That's what he said to me in late November. I wish he would have. That's what he said he was gonna do, but he didn't. I wish we'd all just participate as a community together and find out the facts, just whatever they are. If you have the gloves, just tender them. Don't no games. You want to play games?
There's no games.
Then just tender them tomorrow.
I want the gloves. Just
Tomorrow,
ask.
tomorrow, please. We'd love to have the gloves tomorrow.
Have them ask.
I'm asking you right now. We'd love to have them tomorrow, please.
Okay.
Can we have them tomorrow, please?
I will talk to my client.
No, I don't understand. I don't.
Lawyer, Steve.
Okay.
Can't answer that way.
Well, okay,
If I had the gloves in my briefcase, I
Yes.
would give them to you right now.
perfect,
I
great.
cannot have
We
the
would
gloves
love
in
for
my
you to ask your
briefcase.
client if your client will tender the gloves.
If he has them, absolutely. We are
I
not.
thought you just said he has them.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I have not been to his house and looked through his drawers. I don't know what's in his house. It is my understanding the gloves are in
This is
possession.
a bad situation. Usually there's a retention of data and a retention of items.
And
In any event.
typically, the investigators come and collect that evidence at the time.
I understand, but
Requesting
Metro
something now,
didn't do an
8, 9
investigation,
months
so
later.
therefore, that Metro didn't do an investigation, so therefore, they couldn't send letters out to say, retain documents, retain articles of the event. I get it. We're saying the same thing. We all want the same results. We just like to know what's going on, so we don't ever have this situation again. And we operate in a beautiful state, in a beautiful community, that we can all get along and kind of do the right thing.
I 100% agree with you. We will do what we can to help this process.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Deputy Attorney General Becker, just for the record to add in, or any request for gloves also includes requests for his headgear and hand wraps and any other gear that he was wearing that day. Thank you.
Commissioner Alonso?
Before, because I'll be quick in wrapping up, I just thought I'd extend the opportunity for Commissioner Alt or Murin, if they had any questions while they were on the phone.
This is Commissioner Alt. Thank you, Stacy. I think everything's been stated very clearly, and the opportunity to move forward and get this thing corrected, I think is in the right line. There's a lot of things that need to be answered to, and equivalent answers on both sides from our commission and from the public body. But I agree with Commissioner Martin. This was not an intended accident to happen. It was something that happened because of non-conformity of what the understanding of the NSA determining factors are. Because it continually goes through the report that says the gloves and headgear were in good working order, but the equipment provided by Center Ring Boxing was only rated for training, not for competition. Then it goes on further to talk about, but the training gloves are thicker than the regular boxing gloves. So, I think there is some opportunities there to explore this, but I once again, it's an event that happened because the people did not understand exactly which direction to go. It's something that's been going on for a long time, not only just here in Las Vegas or at the UNLV, but throughout the country. And I think the Nevada State Athletic Commission under our director, Mr. Klubeck, can make a statement here in terms of what these organizations, in particular at the college level, because they call them club sports at times, understand that they have a commissioner report to and an obligation to understand what the rules and the regs are.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
And this is Commissioner Murren. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I would just like to also add that I share the intense frustration and really deep sorrow for this event to have happened. And the report does note that we need further legislative fixes to what we have already made improvements to. I would like to make sure that in fact does occur. And Commissioner Marnell did cite the frustration that these type of events have always caused us problems, and here we are now dealing with something that could have been resolved many years ago. And I can't imagine how we cannot all want to robustly investigate every iota of information. It should have been done in November, it should have been done in December, it should be done now, to ensure that this could never happen again, and that we are holding people accountable to violations of either the statutes or of law of our state.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Murray. Commissioner Alonso, anything else?
Yeah, yes, I don't have any more questions for you. First, District Attorney,
Thank you.
if Kyle, if you wouldn't mind. So, this item obviously was an agenda item as a discussion, and we have had a healthy discussion, including many. I want to be clear on, as a commission, our next steps, because I think out of all the passion hearing today, banning this type of work may be at least one person's potential view to take action and prevent it from not happening again, which all of us, everybody I think in this room wants to ensure as much as possible. So what are our next steps as a commission outside of this discussion agenda?
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, Kyle George. Commissioner, that's a difficult question. That is your responsibility as Commissioner to make that determination. One of the things that I've heard conversations about is perhaps a legislative fix. This commission acted on December 13th to pass Nathan's Law, which was a regulatory fix that asserted some additional oversight, but these events can still go on. This temporary measure was permanently adopted, so we do have a permanent regulation in place now. There are additional protections that didn't exist on November 19th. Perhaps this is time for future legislative action that can make a determination one way or the other. That's a policy question. I'm always very careful about the role of the Attorney General's office. We're here to discuss facts and the law. Policy decisions are really your bailiwick, but we're happy to advise the Commission on that.
Thank you. And then just one housekeeping item, the confidential request for medical records, and I'm not certain even if exhibit, it was 3 from the Metro would be distributed to on behalf of all the commissioners in our confidential.
Correct, and we do, there are certain laws that prohibit secondary dissemination that we're subject to, and that's why those were not included in the public.
Understood.
But those are in our possession.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Well, with that, we will,
Chairman, I think we should, if you don't mind, please, 5 minutes. Is that Mr. Reed?
Yes, Mr. Reed here?
Could you and your client come up, please?
Sure.
okay.
It's going to be very brief, I can tell you that.
What's that?
It'll be very brief.
We'll see.
And Stephen Reed, attorney for Sahara Event Center. This is Dan Cortesi Placement. And I would say very respectfully, I've had a lot of respect for the Commission. We came in today to answer as many questions as possible. I feel as though that's not going that route. Kind of, with the potential intent of criminal action, I've advised my client just not to say anything at this moment.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
So you have, your client will not speak to the Commission today?
Just based upon some of the statements made today, it's certainly my advice to tell him not to answer any questions, because there is an ongoing civil case, and there's a lot more information in that civil case that's being disclosed more than this report. And I'm privy to that, my client's privy to that. There's a lot of issues going on, so.
Okay, all right, we respect that.
We really appreciate it, but
You respect it?
thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
He's the promoter of Sigma Chi.
Is this promoter of Sigma Chi here today? No one from the fraternity?
Kappa Sigma.
Kappa Sigma?
The legal counsel had said that they would.
Is the legal counsel, anyone here for Kappa Sigma? Fraternity?
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Scott Old on behalf of the local chapter.
Much like Mr. Reed just said, we have no comment at this time as there is a civil litigation that's ongoing.
Is there anyone here from UNLV? Okay. Commissioner Alonso, you good?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt,
Yes.
do you have anything more to add? Would you like to ask any more questions? And Commissioner Murray? Can't see you, so.
No, I have no more questions, but let me just state, this fight night event certainly lacks safety protocols. The organizers, according to what I've read through the report, felt they weren't required to be sanctioned under the NSAC rules existing at the time. The interesting fact here is this is how unorganized this thing was. So you had UNLV involved, sure, but I think it goes outside those bounds. The fact that multiple participants were not students at the time. And so, it's a conglomerate of just a bunch of kids getting together and fighting, some involved with the university, some not. And I think it's really a tragedy to think that the organizers, whoever they were, whatever they're going to do, the combinations of them, didn't take into consideration the entire fact of what was being represented, whether it be a fraternity, or whether it be just a common bond within the community itself. So I think if we move forward with breaks and to establish the credentials and stuff at events like this, it's important to state the fact of the type of people that are going to be involved, especially when they're dealing with club sports or fraternity sports, or even some of the sororities involved within the university system.
Thank you. Look,
I have a couple of comments after, unless you want to go last.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I just want to add for the record that the history of this type of event in the state, from what I understand it, always revolves around money. And in order to properly regulate any type of event like this of unarmed combat in the past, the reason that it has been loose and or not attended to is because this event would have no chance of affording the proper regulations for the health and safety of the fighters. Absolutely none. And so and I'm saying this for a very specific reason, I don't think the general public has any idea, we saw a little bit of it today, but has no idea what goes into putting on just one real fight. Ambulances, doctors, inspections, drug tests, glove safety, glove custody. It's an amazing machine in Nevada as a gold standard to prevent this type of thing from happening. Why am I saying all this? When we go to try to finish this law, the resistance for those who make money off of amateur boxing and club boxing are going to come out against this movement. And I understand their point to an extent. We see many promoters come before us in the smallest of professional events that cannot make it work by keeping up with our regs. However, we keep people alive. And we have to be really diligent in the movements that you have started with the reg and the new law to get to its final place at all legislative levels, the executive branch, etc., in pushing that this can't happen again. And I'm not saying that we ban this type of stuff, but it has to have oversight and regulation because in my opinion, after reading this report and all of the other things, this would have not have happened. And if it did, that young man would have been on his way to UMC in an instant. And he would have been going to even the right hospital, the only hospital in our city that can take care of a brain bleed.
And Commissioner, maybe he'd be alive to celebrate his 21st birthday.
Maybe he would be. But here's the other thing. How many of these events do we not know that have happened?
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
So I think that, and I'm not, so I'm clear for the record too, I wasn't bringing up what I was bringing up today with the criminal intent. So everybody's clear on that.
I think there's a concept called street beefs that we're looking at.
It could be. I'm not that guy. I don't do that for a living, but I think that this has been going on for so long. It's like a prescriptive easement. It's just been happening for so many years
Right.
in this way that nobody probably thought they were doing anything wrong. It's just like, hey, this is amateur boxing. This is what we do, and the kids go out and they're having a good time and they're getting kids, and so I don't see any of that going on. But a stop needs to come to these types of events without the proper medical personnel, without the proper custody of gloves, and a minimum some pre-fight drug testing, because we just don't need a bunch of college kids on all kinds of illicit drugs getting in there, knocking each other around with a referee that's carrying a beer during the fight. That's just, it's an embarrassment from one end to the other, on everybody that was involved in this.
Commissioner Marnell, you couldn't have said it better.
That's my
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you. And so, you know, folks, I got the call when he went to the hospital. And I also got the call when he expired. Those are not great calls to get. They're not great calls. And that's why I'm so passionate, because I just saw so many failures and so many commitments from people that I thought were, you know, community leaders and thought leaders, and they want to do the right thing. And, you know, we do this selflessly at this job because we're passionate about the state. Certainly not making the big bucks doing this, but we're passionate. And we just want people to do their job, show up, do what's right for everyone here in the great state of Nevada. That's all I have to say. So, with that, let's go to public comment.
Unmute all lines.
The conference has been unmuted.
Is there any comments on the open line, please? Hearing none, please close the line.
The conference has been muted.
Is there any comment in this room that remains? Hearing none. I have no chairman's report. Do we have any matters for any future agendas? Any commissioners, anyone have anything? Okay, hearing none, I move for adjournment. Have a motion for adjournment.
Commissioner Marnell, so move for adjournment.
Commissioner Marnell, second.
Commissioner Alonso, second.
Commissioner Alonso, all those in favor, aye, aye, aye. Thank you all.